SNOMED CT. SNOMED CT stands for Systematized Nomenclature of Medicine Clinical Terms. It means collection of names and words organized in a structured and logically consistent manner relevant to the field of medicine. SNOMED CT is the most comprehensive, multilingual clinical healthcare terminology in the world. It's a resource with comprehensive, scientifically validated clinical content. Enables consistent, accessible representation of clinical content in electronic health records. Is mapped to other international standards. Is already used in more than 50 countries. SNOMED CT started in 1965 as Systematized Nomenclature of Pathology, which was published by the College of American Pathologists to describe morphology and anatomy. In 1975, under the leadership of Dr. Roger Coate, CAP expanded SNOP to create a Systematized Nomenclature of Medicine, or SNOMED. The most widely adopted version of SNOMED was SNOMED 2, which was initially published in 1979. A major expansion and revision published in 1993 was called SNOMED International, or the SNOMED 3.0. Then, in collaboration with Kaiser Permanente, CAP developed a new logic-based version called SNOMED RT, which was first published in the year 2000. Meanwhile, the Reed codes developed originally in the UK in the 1980s by Dr. James Reed eventually evolved into clinical terms version 3 or CTV3 under the National Health Service. A 3-year project to merge the CTV3 and SNOMED RT was begun in September 1998 under the ownership of CAP. The result was the first version of SNOMED CT released in January of 2002. In 2007, the newly formed IHTSDO acquired the intellectual property rights to all versions of SNOMED. Although SNOMED was originally an acronym for Systematized Nomenclature of Medicine, it lost that meaning when SNOMED was combined with CTV3 in 2002. The merged product was called SNOMED Clinical Terms, which was shortened to SNOMED CT. IHTSDO considers SNOMED CT to be a brand name and not an acronym. SNOMED CT benefits individual patients and clinicians, benefits populations, and supports evidence-based healthcare. SNOMED CT supports the development of comprehensive, high-quality clinical content in health records. It provides a standardized way to represent clinical phrases captured by the clinician and enables automatic interpretation of this. SNOMED CT is a clinically validated, semantically rich, controlled vocabulary that facilitates evolutionary growth in expressivity to meet emerging requirements. The use of electronic health record, or EHR, improves communication and increases the availability of relevant information. If clinical information is stored in ways that allow meaning-based retrieval, the benefits are greatly increased. The added benefits range from increased opportunities for real-time decision support to more accurate retrospective reporting research and management. SNOMED CT Basics. SNOMED CT is a core, clinical healthcare terminology that contains concepts with unique meanings and formal logic-based definitions organized into hierarchies. SNOMED CT content is represented using 3 types of component. The concepts, representing clinical meanings that are organized into hierarchies. Descriptions, which link appropriate human readable terms to concepts. Relationships, which link each concept to other related concepts. These components are supplemented by reference sets which provide flexible features and enable configuration of the terminology to address different requirements. SNOMED CT concepts represent clinical thoughts ranging from abscess to zygote. Every concept has a unique numeric concept identifier. Within each hierarchy, concepts are organized from the general to the more detailed. This allows detailed clinical data to be recorded and later accessed or aggregated at a more general level. For example, here we have a heart, and it also has a clinical idea with a unique identifier. Descriptions. SNOMED CT descriptions link appropriate human readable terms to concepts. A concept can have several associated descriptions, each representing a synonym that describes the same clinical concept. Each translation of SNOMED CT includes an additional set of descriptions, which link terms in another language to the same SNOMED CT concepts. Every description has a unique numeric description identifier. Descriptions are like human readable terms linked to a concept. For example, the heart and the FSN, or the fully specified name, is the myocardial infarction, and it has synonyms: myocardial infarction, cardiac infarction, heart attack, MI, myocardial infarct. All of the synonyms has a unique concept identifier. Relationships. SNOMED CT relationships link concepts to other concepts whose meaning is related in some way. These relationships provide formal definitions and other properties of the concept. One type of relationship is the is-a relationship, which relates a concept to more general concepts. These relationships define the hierarchy of SNOMED CT concepts. For example, the concepts bacterial pneumonia and viral pneumonia both have an is-a relationship to infective pneumonia, which has an is-a relationship to the more general concept pneumonia. Relationships explain defining characteristics of a concept. For example, myocardial infarction, the finding site is the myocardial structure, and the associated morphology is the infarction. Reference sets. Reference sets are a flexible standard approach used by SNOMED CT to support a variety of requirements for customization and enhancement of SNOMED CT. These include the representation of subsets, language preferences for use of particular terms and mapping from or to other code systems. Every reference set has a unique numeric concept identifier. SNOMED CT hierarchies. SNOMED CT concepts are organized in hierarchies. Within a hierarchy, concepts range from the more general to the more detailed. Related concepts in the hierarchy are linked using the is-a relationship. Examples of the hierarchies include clinical finding, procedure, observable entity, body structure, and organism. SNOMED CT logical model. The SNOMED CT logical model provides the fundamental structure of SNOMED CT and specifies how the component can be managed in an implementation setting to meet a variety of primary and secondary uses. This picture shows how the SNOMED CT logical model works. It has three components: the concepts, descriptions, and relationships. Concepts. Every concept represents a unique clinical meaning, which reference using a unique numeric and machine-readable SNOMED CT identifier. Descriptions is a set of textual descriptions are assigned to every concept. These provide the human-readable form of a concept. Two types of description are used to represent every concept: the FSN, or fully specified name, and synonym. The FSN represents a unique, unambiguous descriptions of concepts' meaning. A synonym represents a term that can be used to display or select a concept. A relationship represents an association between two concepts. Relationships are used to logically define the meaning of a concept in a way that can be processed by a computer. An attribute relationship contributes to the definition of the source concept by associating it with the value of defining characteristic. SNOMED CT Concept Model. The SNOMED CT concept model specifies the way in which SNOMED CT concepts are defined using a combination of formal logic and editorial rules. Concept model rules specify the top-level concepts under which concepts are arranged in the subtype hierarchy and the types of relationships that are permitted between concepts in particular branches of the hierarchy. Concept model top-level hierarchies. The top of SNOMED CT hierarchy is occupied by the root concept, SNOMED CT concept. All concepts are descended from this root concept through at least one sequence of is-A relationships. This means that the root concept is a supertype of all other concepts, and all other concepts are subtypes of the root concept. Below is a list of top-level concepts with a brief description of the content represented in their branch of the hierarchy. Clinical finding represents the result of a clinical observation, assessment, or judgment and includes normal and abnormal clinical states. Procedure represents activities performed in the provision of healthcare. Situation with explicit context represents clinical findings and procedures that have either not yet occurred, referred to a person other than the patient, or have occurred at some prior time. Observable entity represents a question or assessment which can produce an answer or result. Body structure represents normal and abnormal anatomical structures. Organism represents organisms of significance in human and animal medicine. Substance represents general substances, the chemical constituents of pharmaceutical or biological products, body substances, dietary substances, and diagnostic substances. Pharmaceutical or biologic product represents drug products. Specimen represents entities that are obtained for examination or analysis. Special concept represents concepts that do not play a part in the formal logic of the concept model of the terminology, but which may be useful for specific use cases. Physical object represents natural and man-made physical objects. Physical force represents physical forces that can play a role as a mechanism of injury. Event represents occurrences excluding procedures and interventions. Environments and geographical locations represents type of environments as well as named locations such as countries, state, and regions. Special context represents social conditions, circumstances significant to healthcare. Staging and scales represents assessment scales and tumor staging systems. Qualifier value represents the values for some SNOMED CT attributes where those values are not subtype of another top-level concepts. Record artifact represents content created for the purpose of providing other people with information about record events or state of affairs. SNOMED CT model component contains the metadata supporting the SNOMED CT release. Concept model attributes representing characteristics of a SNOMED CT attributes or relationship types. Or rather, representing characteristics of a concept's SNOMED CT attributes or relationship types are used to represent characteristic of the meaning of a concept. SNOMED CT currently uses more than 50 defining attributes when defining the meaning of concepts. Each SNOMED CT attribute can be applied to concepts in one or more branches of the hierarchy. The set of concepts to which an attribute can be applied is called the domain of the attribute. The permitted set of values for each attribute is called the range of the attribute. The domain is the hierarchy to which a specific attribute can be applied, while the range is the set of SNOMED CT concepts that are allowed as the value of a specified attribute. Domain, a specific domain to which the attribute may be applied. Typically, it is a top-level hierarchy. For example, clinical finding, a relationship type used to characterize the semantic meaning of the source concept, the attribute, for example, the finding site or the laterality, the range, the allowable values that can be applied to each attribute, for example, anatomical or acquired body structure. Attributes used to define SNOMED CT concepts. The SNOMED CT defining attributes are used to represent the meaning of concepts in these 9 hierarchies: clinical finding concepts, procedure concepts, evaluation procedure concepts, specimen concepts, body structure concepts, pharmaceutical or biological product concepts, situation with explicit context concepts, event concepts, physical object concepts. SNOMED CT implementation. SNOMED CT is useful for clinical documentation as it supports the representation of detailed clinical information in a way that can be processed automatically. Realization of the capability of SNOMED CT to support clinical information and meaning-based retrieval requires careful consideration of the actual setting in terms of scope of use, record structure, data entry, data retrieval, and communication. Implementation examples. Clinical record applications. SNOMED CT can be implemented in a wide range of clinical applications. These include systems developed for use with other code systems that have been adapted to support SNOMED CT as a systems designed with the assumption that SNOMED CT will serve as the primary terminology. Clinical decision support. Clinical decision support is defined broadly as clinical system application or process that helps health professionals make clinical decisions to enhance patient care. The use of SNOMED CT makes clinical information available in a computable form which can be queried and used to trigger decision support tools and prompts. The hierarchies of SNOMED CT enable complex reasoning to support decision support rules. For example, in SNOMED CT, the concept, stroke, is synonymous with cerebrovascular accident and subsumes all lower-level concepts including paralytic stroke, thrombotic stroke, and etc. This means that decision support queries are easier to develop and implement because they do not need to identify all the individual terms and codes which may be relevant. Enabling interoperability. Information can be recorded using SNOMED CT concepts and descriptions that are independent of the clinical information system being used and either independent of or tied to the context of use, depending on the user requirements. SNOMED CT is a common clinical terminology covering a wide range of requirements and its use. SNOMED CT allows meaning-based computation to be applied to information in messages sent between systems, and provides a foundation for the interoperable interpretation of clinical information. Reporting. Information encoded as SNOMED CT concepts is semantically consistent. In other words, there is one unique SNOMED CT identifier representing each separate meaning. This lends itself to reporting through specifying the SNOMED CT identifiers of interest. SNOMED CT supports recording at appropriate levels of detail and using relevant terms. This also means that reports can be generated at the appropriate levels of detail using relevant terms for display in the report. SNOMED CT International Release Content Development. SNOMED CT's content development is based on 4 basic principles that have an end continue to guide development of its clinical content and technical design, including development efforts must encompass broad, inclusive involvement of diverse clinical groups and medical informatics experts. The clinical content must be quality-focused and adhere to strict editorial rules. The quality improvement process must be open to public scrutiny and vendor input to ensure that the terminology is truly useful within healthcare applications. There must be minimal barriers to adoption and use. The three basic operational criteria that help determine whether new content is following the principle of creating and sustaining semantic interoperability are that SNOMED CT must be understandable, the meaning must be able to communicate it, to be understood by an average healthcare provider, without reference to inaccessible, hidden, or private meanings. Reproducible, it is not enough for one individual to say they think they understand the meaning. It must be shown that multiple people understand the meaning in the same way. Useful, the meaning must have some demonstrable use or applicability to health or healthcare. Requesting content, additions, and changes. IHTSDO provides a request submission service to gather and process requests for additions and changes to the content of the SNOMED CT International Edition. This service is directly accessible by National Release Centers or NRC in member countries and recognized terminology authorities within organizations with whom IHTSDO is actively collaborating. Organizations within member countries can submit their requests for additions and changes to the National Release Center. Extension and customization. SNOMED CT is designed to allow the international edition to be enhanced by adding extensions that address national or local requirements. Additional content required to support national, local, or organizational needs that may not have an international relevance or may not meet the editorial guideline for inclusion in the international edition. Extension content. Many clinical concepts are relevant in all countries, organizations, and specialties, but some concepts are relevant only to a particular environment. SNOMED CT is designed to allow the international edition to be enhanced by adding extensions to meet national or local requirements without compromising the main body of SNOMED CT. This is intended to meet the needs of different specialties and countries, regions, vendors, and healthcare institutions. The responsibilities of organizations that create an extension and provide it for use by other organizations include maintaining concept, descriptions, relationships, and reference sets that they create, and activating these components are as appropriate, duplication, ambiguous, outdated, and etc. Reference sets. SNOMED CT has a broad clinical coverage and includes a depth of detail appropriate to a range of healthcare disciplines and clinical specialties. As a result, it has extensive content, different parts of which are needed in particular environments. Reference sets can be used for many different purposes, including language and dialects, maps to and from other code systems and classifications, subsets of concepts, descriptions, or relationships, ordered lists and navigation hierarchies. Release schedule and file formats. SNOMED CT is distributed to HDSDO members and affiliate licensees as a set of downloadable files. Those wishing to implement SNOMED CT in software applications should understand the release schedule and the structure and content of the release files. Users should be aware that regular updates of SNOMED CT are made available and should be used in their systems to benefit from continuous improvements to coverage and quality. Release schedule and file formats. The SNOMED CT International Edition is currently released twice a year, on the 31st of January and the 31st of July. The release files are made available to members in advance of the formal release date, and affiliate licensees gain access either through their national member or by the IHTSDO affiliate licensing system. Release files and formats. Release Format 2 or the RF2 is the primary format used for SNOMED CT release files. This format includes valuable additional data that was not supported by the earlier format. Release types. The RF2 specification provides a history tracking mechanism within the distributed files. This enables different release types to be provided using the same file format and utilizing the mechanism to optimize installation and updating. Full release. A full release contains every version of every component that has ever been released prior to or in the specified edition. This release provides a full historical record and can be used to obtain views of the state of any component at any point in time since its first release. Delta Release. A Delta release contains only those component versions created, inactivated, or changed since the previous release. Adding a Delta release to the previous version's full release will update the installation to a full release of the current version. This picture shows how the release performance works. Snapshot Release. A snapshot release contains the most recent version of every component release up to the time of the snapshot. The version of each component contained in a snapshot is the most recent version of the component at the release time. In snapshot release files, each SNOMED CT concept is held as a single row in the concept file. Each row represents a clinical concept. Each description is held as a single row in the description file and is associated with a single concept. Each relationship, from a source concept to a destination concept, is held as a single row in the relationship file. Each row also refers to the concept that represents the relationship type. IHTSDO, the organization behind SNOMED CT. IHTSDO means International Health Terminology Standards Development Organization. It is an international not-for-profit organization that owns and administers SNOMED CT and owns the right to the SNOMED CT and related terminology standards. IHTSDO seeks to improve the health of humankind by fostering the development and use of suitable standardized clinical terminologies. Notably, SNOMED CT, in order to support safe, accurate, and effective exchange of clinical and related health information, the focus is on enabling the implementation of semantically accurate health records that are interoperable. The purpose of IHTSDO is to develop, maintain, promote, and enable the uptake and correct use of its terminology products in health systems, services, and products around the world, and undertake any or all activities incidental or conducive to achieving the purpose of the association for the benefits of the members. National Release Centers. IHTSDO members undertake a range of activities related to their involvement in the IHTSDO and their role in distributing, extending, and supporting the use of SNOMED CT in their country. The organization or agency that coordinates this role in each country is referred to as a National Release Center, or NRC. National Release Centers provide a single point of contact for communications with IHTSDO and other IHTSDO members. Within their own countries, NRCs manage the use of SNOMED CT and communicate with a range of stakeholders, including SNOMED CT affiliate licensees, healthcare institutions, clinical groups, and end users. That's all. Thank you very much.